Our learning target today is I can identify fractions greater than 1 on a number line and write them in fraction form as a mixed number. Now notice I circled or boxed in mixed number because that is a new math term for us. A mixed number is a number greater than 1 represented by a whole number and a fraction. So down here, I just put a little example. A mixed number, we have our whole number right here, and then our fraction right next to it. So this mixed number would read 4 2/3. Now remember, a fraction greater than 1 is when our numerator, which is our number on top, is greater than our denominator, which is our number on bottom. So we're going to read this first problem right here, and we're going to kind of break it down and underline our important information. Emilio cuts his pizza into slices. Each slice is a fourth of a whole pizza. So right here, this is telling us that we're working in fourths. Emilio has 9 slices to sell. They want us to show all the different amounts of pizza Emilio can sell and name each fraction. So we have 9 slices to sell and we're working in fourths. So I think we should start with our smallest amount that we could sell. So if only one person comes in and they're only buying a fourth of a pizza, that's what our 1/4 looks like. It's 1/4 of a whole. Now, say 2 people come in, so he's selling 2 slices of pizza. Here's our 2/4. We had to add another fourth on. Now say 3 people come in and buy pizza. Now we have 1, 2, 3 fourths. Ignore my drawings a little bit. I'm not an artist. Now 4/4, we know that's 1 whole. So here's our 4/4 or 1 whole pizza. Still working in fourths. So now we have our whole, our 4/4, and we need to add on that other piece. He had 5 people come in and get a fourth of a pizza. So now we're at 5/4. And what comes after 5/4? 6/4. So again, here's our whole pizza. Six-fourths. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/4. Adding another on to that one. Now we have 7/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Adding another piece onto this. Now notice we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fourths. But what else could I say instead of just 8/4? I also have 2 whole pizzas. And remember, he has 9 slices to sell. So now I'm going to do, there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 fourths. So he had a really busy day. He sold a lot of fourths of pizza. Now say I wanted to write this 9 fourths right here as a mixed number. Now remember, my mixed number is the whole number and then the fraction that's left over. So how many wholes do I have in 9 fourths? I have 1, 2. So there's my whole number. But how much do I have left over? Now remember, I'm working in fourths, so how many fourths do I have left over? One fourth. So I could either say this is 9 fourths if I want to talk about fractions greater than 1, or I can say it's 2 and 1/4 if I want to work with a mixed number. Now let's look at this second problem down here. Jasmine has a stack of 7 waffle halves. I'm working with halves, which means my denominator is going to be 2, which they give us that little key right here. How many plates can Jasmine fill with 1 whole waffle? So how many plates can she fill with 1 whole waffle? And then will any waffle halves be left over? So first, let's do our plates. So I'm just going to draw a circle right here. That's going to be my plate. And I want to put 1 whole waffle on there. Now remember, I'm working in halves. So here's half my waffle. And then here is the other half of my waffle. That's 1 whole. So I've done 2 halves so far, but I have 7. So I'm going to draw another plate, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm still not at my 7 halves yet. 5, 6, still not there. 7. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have my 7 waffle halves. And I have 4 separate plates. But A is asking me, how many plates does Jasmine fill with whole waffles? So how many of these plates have 2 halves on them to make a whole waffle? Well, here's 1 plate that has a hole, a second plate that has a hole, and a third plate that has a hole. So how many plates does Jasmine fill with whole waffles? 1, 2, 3. 3 plates have 1 whole waffle. B, how many halves are left over? Well, I know these are all wholes, so that's not any halves left over. But right here, how many halves are on that plate? 1. So how many halves are left over? 1 half is left over. Let's put our half right here. And then C is where they're breaking down how to get our mixed number. So what fraction greater than 1 and mixed number can you write to represent the waffles that Jasmine serves? So first, let's think of our fraction greater than 1. That's where we know that our numerator is going to be greater than our denominator. We know we're working in halves, so our 2 should be our denominator. And all together, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 halves. So our fraction should be 7 over 2 or 7 halves. So now they're just showing me that 7 halves equals how many wholes? We talked about that right up in A. We had 3 whole waffles. And then how much did we have left over? A half. So when we put our 3 wholes and our half left over, our mixed number, which shows us right here, a whole, and then our fraction, 3 halves. That's how many waffles there were in all. Then we're just going to flip this, and now we're going to work with a number line. So, to make a shirt, Luke needs 5/3 yards of cloth. They want us to complete the number line. Now remember, we're working in thirds, which is why from 0 to our first whole number, our number line is split into 3 equal sections. So 0, we know, is also 0/3. And then after 0/3, we have 1/3, 2/3, and then 1 whole, 3/3, still working in thirds. So we're getting fractions greater than 1, 4/3, 5/3, and 6/3, or 2 wholes. Now, we filled in our number line. Now we're going to start answering our questions. A asks us, how many thirds are in 1 whole yard? So I'm going to look at my whole number on my number line. How many thirds are in that 1 whole? What's my numerator up here? I have 3/3 is 1 whole. So how many thirds are in 1 whole yard? 3/3. Now B asks me, how many whole yards does Luke need? Circle the fraction on the number line. So let's look at our number line for a second. He needs 5/3. So I'm just going to look. 5/3 is right here, and that's after my 1 whole, but it's not quite to my 2 wholes yet. So right here, I'm just going to circle it. They wanted us to circle the fraction on the number line. So he needs 1 whole. Because we see 5/3, we see that it's after 1 whole, but it's not quite to 2 wholes yet. So he doesn't need 2 wholes. And then C says, circle the section of the number line that represents the amount that Luke still needs. we have our 1 whole, but he still needs to get 5/3 of the cloth. So from 1 whole to 5/3, I have this much left. So they want us to do our mixed number to represent the 5/3. Remember, in our mixed number, we have a whole number, which we know is 1. Now, I need to know how much more do I need to get to that 5/3. So here's my 1 whole, and I have 1/3 and then 2/3 left to go until I get to that 5/3. So 1 and 2/3. So remember, our mixed numbers have a whole number and a fraction.